More and more cities are open to the idea of turning streets into pedestrian-only zones. These open street programs are the latest in that effort. I'm going to break down how that is and why. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Byron, and I'm a traffic engineer living in the US with about a decade of experience. Today we're talking about a certain kind of pedestrian zone in a city. In some cities, you may have noticed streets being closed off from allowing cars. Because we drive so much in the US, you may be wondering why cities would want to do that. In the years 2020 and 2021, some special circumstances helped kick that off. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the volume of traffic went through a major dip as places closed down due to the lockdown and workers worked from home. People wanted to be outside, but they had to be social distance, so they needed a lot more space. Because of this, some cities started experimenting with the idea of closing their streets so pedestrians could feel more safe. But the idea of closing off a street to pedestrians isn't something new. Pedestrian zones actually have an unfavorable history in the United States. Back around the 1960s, many cities tried to pedestrianize certain areas. These pedestrian malls, as they were called, were multi-block plans to create more space for pedestrians. The pedestrian mall on Burdick Street of Kalamazoo, Michigan was the first of its kind. It was popular in the beginning and it was an example for many other cities to follow. Over 200 other pedestrianization projects took place over the next 2 decades. The problem was the vast majority of these pedestrianization projects did not work. Once the novelty wore off, shops saw less customers and these locations became a magnet for homeless. Of the hundreds of the pedestrian malls from that era, only about 30 of them remain operating today. The rest reverted back to streets that allowed cars. Of the pedestrian malls that did survive, most of them were either from college towns or popular tourist locations. Nowadays, as mentioned in the intro, cities are experimenting with pedestrian zones again, but with a big difference. Some pedestrian zones, referred to as open streets, are being created with a more flexible and cheaper design. Wanting to implement more quickly and spend less money, cities are opting for materials like barricades and signage instead of a full-blown project. This is a much different approach than pedestrian malls of the past. It allows for quick deployment, so you can gather data and get real-world observation and feedback immediately. It's a test and experiment approach in which you can always revert back to the original condition if needed. This approach is actually not that new. Often referred to as tactical urbanism, this quick implementation could eventually lead to permanent change. Because so much of the United States was built around cars, alternative transportation advocates saw this as a chance for pedestrian zones to make a comeback in the United States. One city that took major steps to embrace this change was New York City. In May 2021, Mayor Bill de Blasio declared New York City's Open Streets program permanent. This was seen as a big win for people who preferred to walk than to drive. But even for New York City, one of the most densest cities in the United States, change is not always permanent. With traffic picking back up to a more normal level, we're already seeing streets in that program revert back to allowing cars. A survey by the Transportation Alternatives Advocacy Group found that fewer than half the streets in that program remain closed to cars. Although not every open street will become permanent, I really like this approach as it allows a city to test an area without spending too much. Pedestrians get a chance to vote with their feet, and if they give a street enough love, then there's a greater chance that it can become permanent. But not every city is like New York City, and it's still up in the air how many of these open streets will remain around the country. Do you have any open streets or pedestrian zones where you live? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.